Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your weekend astrology forecast for December 7th and 8th of 2024. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I'm I'm hoping that you guys are having a wonderful week, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful weekend. Let's go ahead and hop into these charts, see what we got going on. How can we all be better prepared to navigate these celestial energies? Especially a weekend that's going to see, well, Mars is retrograde now. We're also going to see Neptune station direct this weekend. We're also going to see a first quarter square of the moon to the sun, but it's also going to be in square to Jupiter. So we have a nice little T-square there. And of course, Saturn is involved in that T-square as well as Venus moving into another sign. So definitely a lot to talk about. Well, let's talk a little bit about this Saturday, all right? Well, the sun's going to hit 16 degrees today. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 is Neptunian Piscean energy. We have a harmonic of 7 energy because we also have Jupiter here. So the sun's going to begin to oppose Jupiter on this day. And whenever you get Sun-Jupiter oppositions, it's definitely it's a really big energy. You have the two biggest celestial bodies in our solar system that are opposing each other, right? And what's interesting about this one, of course, is that Jupiter is in its detriment, and it's dispositing this sun, right, in Sagittarius. That is with Mercury. And yeah, Mercury retrograde just happened in a conjunct to the sun, and maybe we're getting some ideas or some epiphanies or some things are coming through, but we still don't have all the answers. It's not like we were given every single answer in the back of the book and we know exactly how to fill out this test. No, there's still a lot to be uncovered. So I think the trick with this sun opposed Jupiter is to not give in to the feelings of unluckiness, not giving in to the feeling of deflation. This is a Jupiter retrograde, so it can feel very deflating, as in like there's maybe the energy isn't quite there, especially with Mars that's just gone retrograde, right? So we can be feeling a bit deflated on this day. Like I said, 1 plus 6 is Neptunian energy. The moon happens to be in Pisces, where Saturn is, where Neptune is. So there's definitely going to be a focus on the unseen and the beyond the veil kind of energy, that Piscean 12th house kind of energy. There could be a lot of focus here, especially considering the fact that we have some squares involved. This is probably, I would say this is a nice weekend to maybe just take it easy. I don't know if it's necessarily a great weekend to just go buck wild, per se, but, especially opposing Jupiter and building into that first quarter square, it's going to feel a little bit disorienting. I feel like a lot of people are going to be wondering, kind of feeling what's the point with this kind of energy. They're going to be feeling a little bit deflated. They're going to be feeling maybe even a little bit unlucky. At the end, it's about really looking at our life and seeing the beautiful things that are working out and the beautiful things that are coming, Venus here with Pluto most of the day, right? And this major conjunction here at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which we've been seeing insane conjunctions at this degree over the last 4 years, right? So we saw one earlier this year where Venus was here with Mars and Pluto. We saw with a Jupiter and Saturn were here, right? Back in 2020. So this point has been triggered multiple times. So it's sort of like when you trigger a spot multiple times, it definitely it will bring up the past. It'll bring up these issues. It'll bring up that particular degree, right? So with this one, Pluto, like I said, executioner kind of energy, but there's also an obsessive quality to Pluto because it is Scorpio, right? Same with Venus too. So when you bring that Venus energy into Pluto, and Venus, like I said, it is the way that we like to receive things. It's the way that we want to be accepted. We want people to accept us. It's the way that we relate. It's relationships. It's a lot of these things. Being here in Aquarius, people can get very obsessive. This can be getting obsessive in relationships. This can be getting obsessive in trying to find a solution, even in relationships, or trying to fix things. Remember, Aquarius is also about finding solutions and fixing things, but sometimes it forgets about the human element. At least we have Venus here to kind of help bring some of that human element to it, but Pluto is over here, and Pluto can honestly give less of a shit. Pluto's going to change and transform things and be the executioner and, draw the lines, draw the boundaries, regardless of human emotions or anything like that. So when you have that throwing on top of it, a moon going into Pisces, where everyone's going to be a lot more sensitive in general, and people are going to be feeling more like a Pisces, it's going to make things to where it's like, if you're unable to kind of handle the heat of this opposition, if you're unable to handle these emotions and these feelings of like maybe not feeling enough, maybe feeling like you could be more, maybe feeling like, you should have gone further, maybe feeling like you should connect better, or, there's also an element of like when it comes to our creativity and our passions with that Mars that's slowing down. We are going to see this moon make a quincunx over to it at 6 degrees, which is going to bring about a kind of this awkward kind of energy as well. We won't feel it for too long, right? But this is happening pretty much at the apex of this opposition, right? And the sun is dispositing this Mars, right, in Leo. So there's a lot of influence when it comes to that. But it's like, don't just, just because it doesn't feel perfect, just because you don't feel like 100% doesn't mean that you can't be inspired, doesn't mean that you can't be motivated, and it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice your spiritual integrity, because I think that's really what this is about. This is the first time that the moon is going to be conjuncting Saturn since it's come forward in quite a while, in quite a few months, right? And this moon will conjunct Neptune this weekend as Neptune comes direct too. So I think Saturday is going to be a day where we definitely feel some tension starting to rise with that opposition with that Sun and Jupiter, and with Venus still being with Pluto. It's going to kind of intensify the moment where we're going to be wanting more. We're going to be wanting more solutions. But the weird thing about this is that the solutions aren't going to come through Capricornian like things. It's not going to come through physical material things. It's not necessarily going to come through money or status or anything like that. It's going to come in a more Aquarian way. So it's going to come through information, it's going to come through knowledge, it's going to come through connection, it's going to come through you invoking the ingenuity of your soul and of your spirit, right? You invoking, that creative, rebellious aspect of you that doesn't necessarily rebel for rebellion's sake, or it's about rebelling for a cause. It's about being truly uniquely you without really giving a damn what other people think, right? That can be a little bit tough though, especially with Venus getting ready to oppose Mars. They don't like opposing each other, right? Which is kind of interesting too, because Mars does rule Aries and Venus rules Libra. But whenever that these two planets are getting ready to oppose, that retrogrades are here. Mars is retrograde and Venus is going to retrograde in Pisces. So even though we have some planets that are coming online, it's the personal planets that are going to be going retrograde here soon. So going into Sunday, you can see Neptune has already stationed and now it is going direct. We have this moon that's going to join up with Saturn on this day. Granted, it's going to be a little bit earlier in the day, right? But we can fast forward to that first quarter square, right? That's going to be happening here pretty much at 17 degrees. So pretty much as the sun enters into 17 degrees, we're going to see the moon make that square over to Jupiter and then also square the sun. So we are going to be feeling this more in the morning time. It's going to be like around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Europe, this is going to be like in your early afternoon per se, right? So we're going to be feeling this from the Piscean realm, right? And that's the weird thing about it. It's caught between Saturn and Neptune. We can feel like, we want to believe in ourselves. We want to see a big picture. We want to have fun. We want to be able to learn. We want to be able to connect. We want to be able to feel the youthfulness that is Gemini energy. But there's a bit of a deflation here. And then when you bring about the youthfulness and creativity of Mars, Mars, but of Leo, where Mars is, there's a retrograde planet there. Right, so it's going to feel a bit tough. Where there's a level of maturation that we have to have this weekend, but we don't want to just completely cast aside, that youthful energy. But it can feel a little bit tough because the youthful energy is not necessarily feeling it all the way. It's just not, right? So with this moon making these squares, It's going to definitely, we're going to be feeling it. So it's like, okay, so yes, I have a bigger vision. I want to do things. I want to travel. I want to explore. Whether you're actually are physically traveling, but it's like you want to explore more. But there's Mercury that's here too, right? So we don't have all the answers and stuff like that. We can get too caught up in the way that we think things should go, or the way that we think things should be, and we may obsess over it a little bit. I feel like there's an energy this weekend of obsession, and like there are healthy obsessions and then there are not so healthy obsessions, but then even some of those healthy obsessions can actually become toxic over time, right? So there's about finding the balance, and I think Venus here can help us start to find some of the balance within these obsessions that we have, especially when it comes to groups of people and the way that we group ourselves as a society. Because I mean, you can say that yeah, Capricorn does rule society in a sense like that, but it's a lot of the structures. Aquarius is like more of like the socio, like it's more like the sociology and stuff like that behind it. It's more of like the how it's more like the mentality, the thought patterns, and the groups and the cults, even the culture. That's Aquarius, right? So that's the interesting thing about this. We're going to be caught between Saturn, which is just not coming forward, it's moving slowly. So there are solutions here, but they're not they're going to come at a different time. Saturn is the planet of time, right? So the timing is going to be a bit off and things are going to be slow. There are delays. And Neptune has just come forward. So it may be hard to emotionally conceive of a future that's not foggy or bleak even for some people, or just overly worrying about it. And it can be easy to just want to escape. Moon's in Pisces, so it can be really easy to escape from those feelings of trying to face the future and face the current moment of like, what's gonna happen, right? What's gonna happen? And I think a lot of people are this week, and I feel like the energy is going to be oddly still. That's my prediction. The energy is gonna be oddly still, but then once that moon comes into Aries, it's just gonna fire right back up, right? But this weekend will kind of give us an opportunity to be an observer. We already had it when the moon was in Aquarius, and it was kind of interesting. The moon in Aquarius, a lot of people were publishing their opinions about a variety of different topics, and people were rather talkative. It's like some people detached, some people really attached. You got to kind of see what some people really thought. With this moon coming in Pisces, though, it's going to give people an opportunity to be a little bit more introspective. And some people don't really like being introspective. It's something that I've learned. Some people are uncomfortable with their own inner voice. They get introspective. It gets too much. Or maybe they judge themselves too hard. And I think that's one of the weird parts of, Piscean energy, is a lot of times we may overly judge ourselves, especially with Saturn here too, right? I think a lot of people are really judging themselves right now. But Saturn's going to go into Aries and start a new timeline, right? So it doesn't just end. Like, planets don't go around and then they just stop all at Pisces. They don't do that. They keep moving, right? So life will move on. And I think that is the biggest lesson right now. I think that's the biggest lesson of all of December is life moves on. Life carries on. Yes, there are tough moments. Yes, there are moments where it may feel bleak. Yeah, there are moments where we may not necessarily know how things are going to turn out. But you find a way, you find your resolve, you adapt. This is a moment of adaptability with all this mutable energy. Neptune, that's now forward. Saturn, that's now forward. We have the moon here with this square. Sun and Mercury and Sag. Jupiter and Gemini. That's a lot of mutable energy. And yes, we do have a little bit of fixed energy with that Mars and Leo and the Venus and Pluto over here in Aquarius and stuff like that. But we're feeling more of the mutableness of everything. So for those who are unable to kind of deal with the change, for those who are unable to deal with, having to adapt, people that necessarily, if they need like the same like every day or structure, or if they can't deal with variability this weekend, it's gonna make things very off for people. Now, granted, it's the weekend, so generally the weekends can allow for a little bit more variability depending upon people's work schedule, right? But with just all this energy in general, you got to be able to deal with things changing on the fly, things not necessarily lining up in the way that you see it in your head time wise. Timing is definitely going to be off, especially with Saturn that just finally came back online and is moving forward. It hasn't been going forward for that long, right? It hasn't. So Saturn's moving like it's moving fast, right? But for it's moving fast. It's moving at about 2 minutes a day, right? How fast does Saturn move at its peak? Like, how fast does Saturn move? Astrology. Because I gotta do it that way. Yes, I know it takes 27 to 29 years to go through a sign. I'm talking about just like in general. Like how fast can it move? Let's see. I don't know if it's really gonna give me what I'm looking for. I might have to like. And this is something I should know at the top of my head, but I don't. But it's okay. So, like we know that the sun moves a degree a day, right? So, yes, we know that. We know that. We know that. We know that. I know that. So, Saturn's moving pretty fast, right? It's moving. It says it's moving fast, but it's not moving like super fast, right? So, maybe if I like, because the retrograde just happened. We're not that far out from the station direct of Saturn. That was back on. Let's see what day was that? It was just happened in November. Oh yeah, I think it was right around. I guess it was right around my birthday, right? Yeah, it was right around my birthday. So why isn't this adjusting? It's so weird that sometimes this thing won't adjust when I'm working with it. Yeah, so retrograded. So it went direct around my birthday. I do remember that. Yeah. So we know that. How fast will Saturn actually move? So I want to just kind of see. Saturn right here is still moving 7 minutes a day at that point. What's the fastest that Saturn moves? That's what I want to know. That way I can kind of give you guys an idea. Right now it's moving. Oh, it's moving 4, so it's already slowing down. Look at that. So it's looks like it peaks at around. Let's see. That's at 7, right? So maybe go back one more month to February. I think it's about the same. 720, all right? So it's, let's see. And we look at sheets here. 6. Yeah, so it looks like it peaks at around 7 minutes a day. That's what it looks like it peaks at. Right now it's moving like, what was it? How fast is it moving right now? Like, it's moving 2. Yeah, so it's still not, it doesn't have the oomph or the speed that we want it to have right now. It's just not quite there yet. But it is getting there. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's getting there, but it's not quite there yet, right? So by Sunday evening, we're going to see that moon get a lot closer to this Neptune, right? By this point, it's done. It's finished off with that first quarter square with the sun and also squaring over to Jupiter too, right? And by this time, Venus has moved on to 2 degrees of Aquarius, getting ready for that major opposition to Mars as well. And, the other good thing I think here is that, Mercury should actually be, it's still retrograde, but it's slowing. I think it's technically slowing down at this point. Because it's going to, look at me, I'm just kind of going ahead. So, yeah, it's going to retrograde to 6 degrees. Yeah. So we got about a week left, essentially, of this Mercury retrograde before Mercury comes direct, right? So, and then that's, of course, going to be coming off of right after that full moon in Gemini that we're going to have. We're going to see this Mercury station direct. So I think the energy is going to pick up. I think this weekend is going to be a little bit slower as far as energy. It's going to be a little bit more introspective. So just be kind of prepared for that sort of thing, especially with this moon in Pisces, as it's going to be between Saturn and Neptune here. Two planets that, Saturn's moving fast, but it's not moving as fast as, and Neptune just came back online, and Mars just went retrograde. So if you are feeling like things are a little bit slow, if you're feeling like things aren't lining up, if you feel like there are delays right now, if you're feeling even a little bit deflated, if you're even feeling not necessarily as inspired or motivated to do stuff, then you're actually perfectly in line with this energy. Now, I would say do your best to not just stay stuck in that energy. I think acknowledge it for what it is, but, don't allow this energy, or don't allow these transits, or don't allow the external world and all this sort of stuff. Don't allow it to, create these doubts within your mind, within your heart. Don't let that creep in, because you are a divine spark of the infinite. You are a beautiful co-creative. You are one of God's artists. And, this too shall pass, right? The world's not going to end, right? The world's not going to end, right? Saturn will come into Aries, right? So Neptune will come into Aries. Things will reset, and we'll continue to move on. Life moves on. I think if it's the mantra, honestly, of December going into 2025 is life carries on, and I'm even saying this for myself. Sometimes the reason why I stop myself from doing things that I know I should be doing is because I'm like, oh, the market's oversaturated, or oh, it doesn't have the firepower that I want. It's not going to bring the inspiration that I want. It's not going to have an impact that I want. You never really know until you try. And it doesn't really matter, right? Not everything that you do is going to be a masterpiece. Not everything that you're going to do is going to be that thing. But you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. And don't worry about oversaturation. You just do you and be you. And that's all. That's all anyone can ask for. And that's all your guides are asking for, is for you to just simply show up. So let's get into the cards. Let's see what we got for this weekend. It took me an hour and a half to get home today, y'all. An hour and a half. A drive that without traffic takes me like 40 minutes or so. Maybe 45. An hour and a half to get home. It was insane. I swear. Everyone keeps moving to Atlanta. I'm like, yo, we full. Y'all tripping. Everyone keeps moving to Atlanta. I'm like, stop. We full. I know we got good food, but like, chill. All right. All right. Let's see what we got for the cards. Whoa, I like it. I actually really like this. We have the card of justice. I'm going to say it like this, right? I've been watching, you ever like go through, like, as we all do it, right? Whether it's Facebook or TikTok, whatever like that. We get caught up watching reels and videos, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? So I got caught up watching these reels, and it's that guy that's like, if, and then they say something, and it's either very punny or it's kind of like a dad joke or whatever. But I came across one, and I'm like, this one's actually really, really good. And it applies to this card, the Justice card. And he was like, if life is unfair to everyone, then doesn't that mean that it's fair to everyone? And I thought about that. I was like, that's actually surprisingly deep. It's actually really good, because it's true. If life is unfair, it is unfair to everyone. But that also means that the inverse is true, that it is fair to everyone. I think a lot of times we can see the world as unjust. We can see the world as unfair. We can see the world as inherently unbalanced. And it is, in many ways. But it also balances itself out. There are also moments where, like a video game term, things get nerfed, things get, boosted, right? Things get buffed. I guess that's technically the actual video game term, right? So just because it's not equal and just 100% of the time doesn't mean that life doesn't balance out and we can find justice, right? So I think we need to kind of get out of our own way, especially if it's something that you can actually do yourself. It's about taking some personal responsibility here, especially if it's something that you can do yourself to better your life. You know, nobody is going to take your ability away to do that. And maybe there are cases where someone can, right? I'm not saying it's like I said that as a blanket statement. I know everyone has their experience. I know everyone has their journey and stuff like that, right? The world is unfair, but it's also at the same time fair, because I think we're all given opportunities to make something of ourselves. Maybe not at the same time, maybe not in the same fashion. Maybe it presents itself as something that would seem rather unfair. Maybe it's packaged in a weird way. But there is that old saying that God works in mysterious ways. And I think it's something that we have to remind ourselves of, especially during this time, right? So I'm going to leave it at that card. I normally will draw more cards, but I'm just feeling that the Justice card, that's where we need to be, right? So that is going to do it for your weekend astrology forecast for December 7th and the 8th of 2024. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey this weekend. I definitely appreciate your viewership and appreciate you all joining me here and trusting you guys have a wonderful weekend. If y'all did enjoy this, I definitely appreciate if you like, you share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.